I'm going to spend sort of the next 20 minutes talking to you guys about digital signage, about the digital canvas, as we call it. And my presentation is called "This is a Digital Sign, No It's Not." And the reason that we say that is kind of when you talk about digital signage, people just think about screens and walls. If you're a hotel person, you often think about totem in a lobby. If you're a retail person, you might think about screens dotted around in a retail environment. Whereas we kind of say that it's far more than that. Okay, the digital canvas is about creating digital experiences, and it's about powering that consumer journey. Okay. Now that's irrelevant of the marketplace. I'm lucky enough to work in both the hospitality markets and the retail space. So, we believe that a lot of the things that I'm going to talk to you guys about this morning work equally well in both of those two verticals. So when we kind of look at a digital canvas from a very high level, we see that it's made up of three different sections, or cogs as we see them on the diagram. And that is strategy, campaigns, and technology. Okay, and what I'm going to do with you guys for a little while is just look at each of those cogs one by one, and hopefully give you guys some food for thought, tell you some things that you didn't maybe think about digital signage and visual communications. Okay. So first of all, we're going to look at strategy. Okay, and when we look at strategy at a very high level in terms of a digital canvas, we think about it in two ways. Okay, digital strategy, which is your overall strategy of a canvas itself, your network, your employee communications, or your visual comms, whatever it may be, and then your campaign strategy. Now, we're going to talk about campaigns and building content a lot more later, but when we look at it in terms of strategy, we're really talking about how campaigns should be structured. So how a piece of content should be put together so it's most impactful, irrelevant of the style or type of endpoint, as impactful as it can be. So when we look at overall digital strategy, we like to use this term. It's the whys and the hows. Okay, so the first and most important thing about digital canvas is you need to answer the question of why. What digital experience is your digital canvas going to bring? And we sort of pull that back to the consumer journey. How is it going to affect the consumer journey? And we tend to think that any digital canvas, any digital signage system does one or more of these four things on the right. It will reinforce your brand. It will allow you to interact with your consumers. It will change their perception of the environment or your brand, and it will influence them in some way. Now that may well be in a hospitality environment. It may well be as simple as navigating them to the correct meeting room. But obviously also it might involve upsell or cross-sell in a retail or a hospitality environment. And we kind of think that a good digital signage network, a good digital canvas should do at least one, but probably more than one of these things. Okay, so once you've answered the question of why, then you can start to look at your hows. And your hows is your execution, okay? That's all about your technology versus your content. Okay, but we think it's absolutely critical that before you deploy anything, you answer that question of why. Now, kind of unfortunately, or where the industry still seems to be at the moment, is that we're still stuck with a common strategy that we lovingly refer to as hang 'em and bang 'em, which we kind of mean, right, digital signage, isn't it great? Let's hang up lots of screens, and then what are we going to do with them? We don't know that yet. We'll figure that out later. We kind of say that the whole thinking, the whole strategy behind this should be the polar opposite of that. Okay? Because of the disparate nature of the industry, you will find that there are lots of different players from the supplier side. So there'll be lots of people that are trying to sell you different things, and I think that's where this has come from. Lots of people selling screens, or lots of people selling content, whatever it may be. But we think that you should kind of flip that on its head and decide the purpose first. Okay, then again, looking at a campaign strategy point of view, and again, we'll look at campaign or content a little bit more later. But from a strategy point of view, we believe that all campaigns, all content, irrelevant of the endpoint, should follow this set path for maximum impact on the consumer. Okay, so all campaigns should be designed so that they attract the attention of the consumer, they engage them with the message or whatever it is that you're trying to show them, it connects them with your brand, and it converts them. And again, by convert, we kind of mean anything. So again, it's a wayfind, it's getting them to book a restaurant, a table in the restaurant tonight, or perhaps it's upselling them at point of sale in a retail environment. Okay? So it means whatever this digital canvas is doing. Okay? But we do believe that it should follow this path. Well-constructed content, well-constructed campaigns should follow this path for maximum impact. But again, and unfortunately, the reality today is because of where brands place digital signage, the digital canvas in the marketing mix, we don't see that. So what we tend to see is that a lot of brands are still rehashing content from other mediums, the web banners, literature perhaps, posters. And because of this, and this is fine, because at least this is a starting point for a digital canvas, but because of this, that structure is often not followed. So often the canvas won't have the impact that it might do if the campaign was strategically created for this medium, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. Okay, so then looking at campaigns. And by campaigns, we kind of mean an overall campaign that you might put onto a digital network or content design, however you want to call it. But again, we see that there's a set process, a set flow to how you guys should be thinking about campaigns and content design. And one of the really important parts is the top one, is ownership. And the reason we kind of say that's very important is we often see within our partners and our brands that even when a network goes in, if it's very well planned and the content that's created up front is very well done, we often find that because of a lack of ownership of the medium and a lack of understanding of the medium, that longer term there is no refresh. We don't take learnings from the digital network. And so because of that, it's not as impactful as perhaps it could be. And Alex from Intel later on is going to talk about, sorry Alex.
The Chief Experience Officer.
Chief Experience Officer,
yeah.
thank you, sorry.
Which is strategic as well.
Which is kind of the same thing, right? It's about ownership. It's about ownership of that network to maximise its impact. So again, when we're talking about campaigns, when we're talking about content, we still come back to what experience is it powering. So we look at the purpose, okay, and it's the same. We use the same kind of four words. What is this campaign designed to do in your environment? Again, whether that be a hotel or retail. So once we've understood the purpose, then we start to look at other factors. Okay, so the environment is a really, really critical one. So simple things like time of day, day of week. Does your content, does your campaign change depend on those things? So simple example, in a hotel, is there any point in showing wayfinding at 6 o'clock at night? Okay, so the campaign should be structured in such a way so that you maximise your impact, maximise your airtime. Does your audience change at those times of day and days of week? Who are your audience? Are they male, are they female? What is the age range of the people that you're trying to communicate with? These things will have a massive impact, or should have a massive impact, on your planning and how you design your content and campaigns. The location of the outputs, which might be different for different areas of your environment. So, is it very loud? If it's very loud, there's not a lot of point in having lots of audio. Is it very bright? Is it very dark? All of these things have a massive impact when you think about planning campaigns and the sorts of messages and experience you're trying to deliver. And also dwell times. So there's not much point in having a beautifully crafted minute-long loop of content on a screen that's in a walkway, where the viewing time is 10 seconds. So again, these things need to be taken into account in this planning stage. And also your technology. Okay, so we're going to sort of talk to you guys about technology later and show you lots of technology in the showcase, but what type of CMS, content management system, are you guys using? Okay, does it allow you to create very high impact campaigns? Can you do interactive campaigns, an example? Can you jump to mobile? Can you link into social media? If you can do those sorts of things on your CMS, then of course that allows you to be far more creative and impactful with your campaigns. And the same with endpoints. There's lots of different styles of technology and endpoints that work in a digital canvas environment. So whichever ones you use will impact the types of campaigns that you then put on them. Small screens, big screens are obvious, but there are far more endpoints out there, which I'll talk about later, that will impact on your planning of your campaigns. And then this one, which is really sort of close to our heart, it goes back to my point about ownership, is to create for the medium. Okay, because still today, many brands relevant and vertical don't. And we like to use this word, freedom, when we're talking about creating for the medium. Okay? So, if you create from scratch for digital signage, for the digital canvas, you can do all sorts of different things. So perhaps you're going to create a very rich media environment with lots of audio. Perhaps you're going to do lots of scheduling so that your content is very timely. The great thing about a digital canvas, irrelevant of how big or how small it is that you've got great, fast speed to market. Okay, so even on the biggest networks, you can get a brand new marketing campaign out into the field in an hour. Okay, once it's ready and inside the CMS. So again, these are the sorts of things we need to be thinking about. Do we want to link into social? Okay, a digital canvas needs to be alive. It needs to be a live, living thing, and linking into social media is a great way to do that. Linking to mobile, tablets, smartphones. Again, these are extensions of a digital signage, a digital canvas network. Live TV, live broadcasts. These sorts of content draw the attention so that the viewer, the consumer, sees other messages. And also things like inputs. Okay, so inputs from other systems. As an example, in a hospitality environment, a sounds and catering system as an example. In a retail environment, perhaps it's data coming from the stocking system, so that then using logic inside the CMS, we only show adverts for stock that is available inside that shop. So again, these are all very important factors that you can think about if you create specifically for a digital canvas, rather than reusing assets from something else. Okay, and then finally in this flow is what we call create. Okay, so once we understand all of the purpose of it, and we understand we've done some good planning in terms of the types of content we're going to deliver, we start to look at this flow. And at Simon, we're really lucky to have some very, very talented graphic designers and creators. Many of them are here today, and you'll meet a lot of them later. And it's a very big part of the proposition that we bring to market and what we work with our brands to deliver. But again, we follow this kind of set flow. So we look at idea, build, review, and refresh. So the top two are kind of fundamentals. So we'll work with a client on a brief, on sketches, on concepts, on a pitch. And then once we've ironed out all of the bugs and we've agreed how we can create a very impactful campaign based on your environment, we'll then look to build that. With or for, that doesn't matter. But we'll create the graphics, we'll create the video, we'll bring that together inside the CMS. And then of course it can be deployed. Okay, so they're kind of your fundamentals. But the important points here are review and refresh. Okay, and by review we can sort of mean a host of things. It can be something very simple, like you only have a promotion that only exists inside the digital canvas. So then it's very easy for you using a promotional code or something like that, to review how impactful and successful or not a campaign has been. Okay, on another level, if you have got interactive endpoints, you might want to be reviewing impression data. So how many people have used your endpoints? Which endpoints have they used? Have they used certain parts of the content more than other parts of the content? Because it's imperative that you review this data. And on another level of that, and something that we'll share and show you guys later, is a product from Intel called AIM. So that's Audience Impression Metrics. So kind of using cameras, we're able to tell your gender, your age range, and not only can we then trigger content that's specific for your geographic, but we're able to also capture all of that data so that you can review it. And of course then, by reviewing that data and using that for your refresh in this kind of never-ending circle, you can then create more impactful campaigns. So it's absolutely paramount that we look to follow this process. Okay. So then lastly, a little look at technology. And obviously later on today, after we've heard from Ben and from Alex, we've also got the showcase behind you where a lot of this technology is going to be on show. But of course it's a huge part of a digital network and a digital canvas. So when we sort of break the technology down, we kind of are left with three clear sections. Content management solution, or CMS, which is kind of your software, your brain, the thing that makes everything work. Your media players, the things that are actually powering your your end devices, whatever they may be, and then the endpoints themselves. Okay, and there are many different styles which we'll talk about. Okay, but just to touch on each one a little bit, and again, just to really try and give you guys some snippets and some thoughts to maybe take away. So if you look at CMS and media players, you tend to find that there's always a core. Okay, there's a core platform. Now that core platform is kind of the brain, right? It makes everything else work. It talks to the players, it talks to the clients in which you create content and create schedules and playlists. And that core needs to be feature rich. Okay, it needs to do all of the things that we have been talking about already. So can it do analytics and reporting? Can it cope with interactive? Can it jump off to web and things like that? So it's very important to have the right core platform. And more so nowadays, that platform might be on property, above property, or in the cloud. Okay, so it kind of doesn't matter. It just depends on the sort of environment and the size of environment that you're looking to deploy. So there can be a real mixture to suit you and what you're trying to achieve. So then at the same time, you've got your designers, your clients, so how you or the team work and get content, get campaigns into the digital canvas. And again, we kind of think that needs to be very scalable. Okay, so you might have 1 or 100, and one of the clients might be able to see the entire network, whereas one of the clients might only be able to see one player on the network, and that is associated to their area of the business. And again, the CMS should do that as standard, right? These are not things that should not be common. There should be different styles of client. So there should be fully blown clients that you can do all of your creative design, you can bring in all of your assets, you can create all your playlists and add animation. But then at the same time, perhaps there should be light clients. Maybe they're web-based. They should be very, very simplified and easy to use. So again, different members with different levels of training should be able to access the system, access the digital canvas, and deploy your campaigns. Assets, internet inputs, things that feed into the canvas. So assets is an obvious one. This is your campaigns, it's your graphics, it's your media, it's your video. But things from the internet, again, social media, things like RSS feeds, tube information, news headlines, all of those sorts of things should be able to be fed into the CMS because they kind of bring the campaigns to life, bring the endpoints to life. And then inputs from other systems. We already talked about conference and event information, maybe stocking information, but another example, hospitality one. What about if we look at a spa system and we look to pull in data from a spa system that tells us which spa treatments are available in the next 4 hours, and we display them and only then blend it in with a high impact advert. Okay, so what we're then doing is we're using the power of data and logic to say, these are the sorts of things that I want to get into my campaign and advertise at the right time. And again, creating impactful campaigns. Okay, so just your takeaways maybe about your CMS and your media player. Again, your CMS should be advanced and scalable. It has to be user-friendly. You should be able to bring feeds in. But again, one of the most important things is we do believe it should be networked. Okay, standalone digital signage is fit for purpose in some environments, and for many people that works. But you guys do need to realise that if that's what you do, you're going to lose a lot of these features, a lot of these functions, which is fine in the right environment, but we do believe that to do many of these things you need a network. And analytics is absolutely key. Reporting and refreshing is key to any successful digital signage, digital canvas deployment. Without it, you have absolutely no idea what is working, what is failing, how to generate your ROIs, all of those things. You must use analytics. It's kind of one of the things that we really do stress. And then again, players. The most important thing about players is they should be secure, of course, but they need to be powerful. And the reason is we don't want to be sitting there dreaming up some great big idea of how you're going to create an experience for your guest or an experience for your consumer in your retail store, and then your platform lets you down because it doesn't support the things that you want to do. Okay? And again, networked and reporting as well are absolutely key. Right. So finally then, endpoints, the bit that we all see, kind of the more front end bit, and there are lots, and I could probably talk to you guys about this for half a day, but I won't. Or Dan will boot me off. But again, we're going to show you quite a few in the showcase later. But just to kind of touch on some, and hopefully maybe to get you guys thinking a little bit differently about digital canvas to maybe where you were when you came in this morning. So of course you've got displays, and the rise of LED over the last year or so has kind of changed the landscape again in terms of displays. LED has made things brighter, thinner, sharper, more eco-friendly, lower cost of ownership and things like that. So, you know, all of these things are great, and displays are still very good and common things in a digital canvas network. But there are other types of displays as well. There's very large format display, there's external displays, high bright, so being able to put screens in windows so that you can advertise outwardly, and fully IP rated, which means outdoor interactive. So then perhaps you can allow people to interact with you before they even enter your environment. So displays is still a really big part of any digital canvas, because they're so varied in terms of size that they really can be tailored to suit pretty much everywhere. Obviously with the smartphone and tablet developments in the last few years, there really has been a revolution in the way in which your consumers interact with your brand and look at content. Okay, and you guys really, when you're thinking about digital canvas, need to be thinking about mobile and mobility as an extension of it. Okay, because it is a fantastic way to sort of bring those experiences to a one-to-one level. It's a great way for them to continue the experience on their own device, and it's a great way for them to continue the experience after they've left your environment. So doing things like using QR codes or maybe NFC, near-field communications to jump off to microsites, or linking to social and Facebook and things like that. It's very important in terms of having high impact content and campaigns. And we see that more and more. Interactive. These are commonplace now. Everybody knows what an interactive touchscreen is. Everybody is used to using them. And why they're good in terms of a digital canvas is that it allows you to get that deeper, richer experience with the consumer. They can then find things that are most relevant to them. They can look for things that they want to see. And again, as screen technology is improved, they've become bigger, they've become cheaper, they've become IP rated so that you can use them outside. Again, all shapes and sizes, kiosks embedded in walls. So they really do make a great high-end, high-impact endpoint for not great cost anymore. And also, advanced features such as allowing you to capture data about the consumer. So perhaps you want to pop a keyboard and allow them to sign up for a promotion or enter a competition. These interactivity in interactive environments is a great way for you to have that kind of more personal one-to-one communication with the consumer. Video walls, again, LEDs sort of made massive impact in terms of all types of screen technology. Video wall is one of those. Video walls, because of the price of screens now, video walls is a very large high-end endpoint for a very reasonable cost. Bezels are getting thinner, so image quality is better. The inbuilt technology in the screens lets you do a lot of this video wall stuff without the need for any third party. But then even things like video wall controllers let you do really cool things in terms of turning screens on their side and creating lots of different, like the eye image. These things have come down drastically in price. Okay, so it's very important. Projection. Ben has got an installation of a projector upstairs. You probably saw it as you walked down. Again, in the right environment, projection is a fantastically high impact endpoint. Works perfectly on glass. You can even do touch through glass now with a film, so you can touch it from outside. You need to be careful about light. Ambient light and projection don't work very well. But again, LEDs affected projectors as well. Cost of ownership has come down. They're more eco-friendly. They've got longer life cycles. So again, in the right environment, projection is a great style of endpoint that has really high impact for very little investment. Similar to the cost of the screen. Okay. And then looking at cutting edge. The more cutting edge endpoints, and some are more cutting edge than others, to be fair. But we'll have a review of some. Okay, 3D. We all know 3D. Okay, very big in cinema. It has get bigger. We don't see it a lot at the moment in terms of digital signage, digital canvas, but glassless 3D is coming. You've probably all started to see it, and it is a high impact endpoint. Okay, the challenge with 3D is it's one of those things that you either love or you hate, and many people do hate it. The other challenge that you have with it is that managing your content and creating content is more expensive, but still it is a very high impact endpoint. If you have a 3D screen somewhere, people will stop and look at it, even if they stop and look at it and actually hate it. So it's a mixed bag, but again, it's coming. So the question is, will it come into the mainstream and will it be sort of commercially available at a good price? That's to be seen. Gesture. So gesture is again back into interactivity, but it's not now based on touch. Okay, so again, it's a very cool experience. It really immerses the consumer, immerses the viewer. They have to really engage with your content. So it lets you create lots of fun, immersive environments in which the consumer can dig down into a very rich experience. Okay, and the whole point of gesture is meant to be easy. It's meant to, everybody understands how to work gesture. You know, it's simple movements, but it can again create very high impact, very fun ways to get consumers to interact with your brand. Transparent displays. Has any of you guys have seen these yet? They're starting to come through. Technology's been around for quite a while now, but some of the bigger manufacturers are really starting to commoditise them as a product. Again, we see a place for them, probably more in retail than in hospitality, but it's very much dependent on your environment. Because they need a light source behind them, they need a backlight, because obviously you can see through, so there is no backlight behind it. You need a light source. So they work really well with product placement, so product sitting behind it, with you interacting with transparent content in front of it. So again, very high impact, very cool, so people will use it, but it has to be right for the environment. Not really generally available yet, but seeing more and more from the big manufacturers. Microtiles. We've got microtiles in the showcase. I don't know how many of you guys have seen these before. They're made by a company called Christie, and they really are a very high impact endpoint. The cool thing about microtiles is they are a foot square projection cube, and what you do is you bolt them together and they can form any shape, any size. So you can make arches, you could make trees, you could make whatever size and shape you want to do. The cool thing about them is they're very bright, they're very sharp, and their resolution stays the same no matter how many tiles you have. Okay, so it's always perfect quality. And it just allows you to create these really high impact endpoints with a price tag, by the way. But they are, you know, we think that at the moment they're probably one of the best endpoints on the market to make a statement in the right environment. Okay, and then we've got Ove, and guys, Ove is in the showcase. I do encourage you to see it. It's one of those things that you kind of shouldn't miss. We were lucky enough to stumble across the team from Ove who were here today about 6 months ago, and it's uber cool. It's the uber cool endpoint. It's the most immersive thing we've seen. It's a pod, it's a sphere. It's not very easy to get down the stairs up here, by the way, but you get into it. It has a leather chair, it has a big high impact screen in front of you, it has a touch screen, it has surround sound, and so you can imagine the type of experience you deliver, the type of campaign you can deliver to a consumer is the most immersive that you might. Now of course this is a high-end endpoint, you need space to do this, but in terms of connecting somebody with your brand, connecting people with a campaign, we think Ove at the moment is probably as good as it gets. Alright, and the last one is telepresence. Okay, telepresence is a bit of a cheat, it's not really an endpoint, but we thought it was worth a mention today. It's more of an application. But the cool thing about telepresence, and by telepresence I mean the ability for you to see someone on the screen and they can see you and you can interact with them, is it means that you really do have that personalised one-to-one digital experience with your consumer. So it's kind of like an on-demand expert. So they might be having an experience and they can call upon an on-demand expert. And we've just been doing this for Bank Audi, which is one of our brands. So you know you can go into their banks and you can sign up for their accounts. And if you have trouble or you want to speak to somebody live, you can dial up an agent who will talk to you in your native language and things like that. So it's just one of those applications that technology should and can power that helps create those really fantastic high-end digital experiences. And that's me done. Thank you very much, guys.